I feel like there's an uncomfortable tension in the room right now because I should not have worn this dress.
Like all days, I'm not in the mood to be sexually harassed, though that seems to be inevitable no matter what it is that I'm wearing.
I remember one of the first times I truly felt out of place. One Halloween when I was 5, I went to school dressed as Aurora. I was so excited about my costume, only to get told by one of my classmates at school that I couldn't be Aurora because I was Asian and I didn't look like her.
I'd also note that I'm quite privileged to be able to transform what you think of me in a very brief 10 seconds. Not everybody gets to do that.
When we dress, are we masking our insecurities? Are we amplifying our own worth?
It's a tale as old as time. Prejudice comes in many forms, and misogyny is no exception. But who's the misogynist? Is it the ones who embrace showing skin? Or is it the ones who claim it's more respectable not to show skin? Where is the line, if one exists at all? What's the nuance? And why are we only talking about this with women and not men? Women have always been a topic of debate thanks to a world historically run by men. It's a harsh reality. Some cultures and religions don't even try to hide that they think women are an inferior breed of human, even going so far as to treat them as inhuman. While we can talk about historical misogyny all day, hell, all year long, today we're just here to talk about one facet of feminism and one alone: how women dress in media. Yeah, this has always been a heated debate, and it still goes on today. Female representation in games, television, movies, anime, and anything else you can think of is somehow made controversial. You already know many of the arguments that come from every direction, I'm sure. Is it okay if these animated women have large round features in their feminine areas? Is it acceptable for them to show ample amounts of skin on screen? Is it better or worse for the woman to be unrealistically empowered or to be depicted in a more relatable manner? There are answers to all these questions, and we're going to answer them, though the responses I give might not be what you expect. Matter of fact, there's nuance attached to how all of these aspects I've questioned should be handled. It's not as simple as a yes or no, or right and wrong. Sometimes you just need to dig a little deeper, think a little harder, and open your mind to reason. Roll the intro. So recently the game Stellar Blade released, and the world was quick to jump on an opinion train for the main character, Eve. She's essentially an unrealistically proportioned android that embodies, well, emphasized features that may make viewers do a double take. Her clothes are designed in such a way that they shape her and draw your eyes to specific parts of her body. It's no secret she was made with sex appeal in mind, but is this bad? Well, I honestly think Eve is a complex example for this argument. We're going to come back to her, I promise, but to understand if she's problematically designed, we first need to look at some other examples of fictional women and how they're portrayed. It's important to remember that a woman is her own person, a human with her own sense of being. Like, I hate that I have to reiterate that, but such is the world we live in, I guess. If you forget that fundamental aspect of your character and omit her agency, then you're left with a shell, a plot device, a distraction. Let's take a look at these characters. They're typically portrayed with insanely large features, yet at the same time, they don't seem to realize it. They act helpless, clueless, and usually something happens to put them in a vulnerable position physically while the camera acts as a voyeur. These women aren't characters. They're just fan service for the eyes of viewers that are attracted to women. The camera and writing is purposely dehumanizing them. At best, they're just here to move the plot along. At worst, they exist to keep random people engaged when nothing of any actual importance or substance is happening. Does this mean women drawn with these proportions are inherently bad? No, absolutely not. This is where a sense of agency can come in to change the context entirely.
Our attire often serves as the external armor of our internal battles. Dressing like the woman I long to be reminds me daily of my true worth.
Let's look at an example of a female character who exemplifies what I'm talking about perfectly. You know who I'm going to talk about. It's Bayonetta. Bayonetta is a character who not only has a great design, but one that exhibits confidence and sex appeal. She's even modeled to have extremely long limbs, and there are plenty more aspects to her character and design that are beyond convention. So why does this work? Why is Bayonetta not scrutinized by the people who play her games? Why is she viewed as an icon rather than an object? Well, to answer that, we have to look at her behavior. Every movement and gesture she makes oozes with control. When the camera moves or tries to become a voyeur, she controls what is seen, oftentimes winking to the audience and in some cases even speaking an iconic line.
No one said you could touch.
These aspects blend into her stories as well. She always has a purpose, someone to save, places to be, deals to make. She's a woman always on a mission, and she's always ready to be 10 steps ahead of everyone around her. Along the way, she shows genuine flaws. She hides her feelings behind vague phrases and flashy talk. She slips up and shows vulnerability when people she cares about are in danger. She even lays her life on the line for the sake of the world on several occasions. Power and control can take a sexy character from being objectified to being respected for their boldness. This also shines through in her outfits. While they are extremely form-fitting, there's still an air of regality to them. And even when they peel off for her flashy moves, she embraces the scene with camp and authority. She's not only in on the joke, she's the author of it. Now, Bayonetta is somewhat of a fever dream, someone who is kind of unrealistically perfect. That's kind of why we love her. It's also why we love some other overpowered characters like the Scarlet Witch, Willow and Glory from Buffy, Illyria from Angel, the Charmed Ones, Lara Croft, the Powerpuff Girls. It's a really long list, but it's really satisfying to watch these characters overcome things that we struggle much more with in the real world. And part of that storytelling is how they dress the part. But does that mean we can't love someone more relatable? Or that we wouldn't want to see ourselves in a character on screen? There's a deeply controversial commercial that's been circling the internet for a while, a collaboration between Dove and Unreal Engine. The ad starts with a woman fighting a giant enemy with video game UI, signifying that what we see takes place in a video game. Once the fight ends, the woman breaks the fourth wall a bit to act as an actress for said video game. But the real twist comes when she exits backstage and removes all of her armor. She reveals that her body type without the armor doesn't look the same as when she's wearing it. Obviously, the logistics of this are all off, but it's definitely a metaphor of sorts. Apparently, the goal of this collab is to have more women feel represented in games. The woman in this commercial is supposed to be someone who's tired of playing a character that's nothing like the real her. Look, I've skimmed the comment section of this ad and seen some extremely unfortunate video essays over it, and I definitely want to point out that people catastrophized the hell out of this promo. And acting like there are sides to take on this endeavor by the collaborators is kind of missing the point. While yes, many of us do play games or watch entertainment to escape reality and follow or even become characters that we could never be in real life, some people genuinely do want to play or observe someone relatable to them, and that extends to body type, fashion sense, and even activities.
For the rest of my childhood, I always felt comfort when I saw an Asian character on screen, from Mulan to London Tipton from The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. There was no better feeling than seeing somebody that looked like you on screen.
Besides, the works that give us those unrealistically perfected characters are clearly not going anywhere. Some designers are just looking to add more variety to the mix. I also once again would like to point out that you don't see this kind of discourse about male characters. No one got mad at Bully when it came out for featuring a stubby, unfit little boy. No one complains about Wedge from Final Fantasy. No one's freaking out about Mario. Literally, like the most recognizable game character in the world, and he looks so goddamn weird and no one cares, yet every single woman's gotta be a goddamn Peach or some shit. Like, what the f? These two characters are literally from the same game. Why do all the guys look ridiculous and then all the women look like models? It makes no goddamn sense. But I digress. The point I'm truly trying to get out here is that just as we can have a character like Bayonetta, who's exaggeratedly proportioned and wears clothing that some may find provocative, we can have women who also dress extremely mundane and have more relatable features. Like how so many people love Jessica Jones. A large part of that is because she dresses and acts the way a lot of us would. Or Evelyn Wong from Everything Everywhere All at Once, dressed right down to the mundane clothes that you would expect of someone who just has a laundromat in a rundown town. Just like how people love their fever dream characters, they can also love characters that they see themselves in. Obviously, not everyone will relate to one or the other, and not everyone will want to play into the idea of one or the other, but the two can coexist. Again, we see this plenty with male characters, and no one bats an eye then, so where does that leave us now? Let's bring this conversation back around to Eve. Now, personally, as someone who's grown up used to seeing body shapes of all kinds, Eve's, to me, is no different. It's just another body type. I understand that some may look at her and say, damn, that's an exaggerated body, but to me, it's just another shape in an endless variety that a human can have. It's actually to the point that when Stellar Blade was shown off in trailers, I didn't bat an eye, and it wasn't until I saw toxic discourse online tackling the subject that I realized people still took issue with this sort of thing. I really did think we were over this after Nier Automata released to critical acclaim, and there was very little negative discourse surrounding 2B's design, even though that design made very little sense in the context of that story. Like, she's literally dressed in a maid outfit. It's just something we should accept at this point. We see people of all shapes and sizes dress in all sorts of different ways, and I think society as a whole is leaning towards minding its own damn business instead of judging others for what their personal decisions are. We can simply enjoy each other and enjoy art without those useless hangups bogging us down. Eve's design is inoffensive for the very important reason I've already mentioned. She presents as an actual character with actual agency. If she was simply a doll who was put in vulnerable positions while the camera sneaks its way into her deepest crevices, then perhaps I wouldn't be feeling this way. But from what I've seen of Stellar Blade, I think it's clear that's not the case at all. Sure, her design accentuates her exaggerated body, but the game isn't focusing on that, nor is it using it as an excuse to draw our attention away from the story or the action. For her character, Eve seems to have actual emotions. She gets sad. She tries to help her sisters and allies. She pulls off some impressive feats after giving effort. Her trials and tribulations are understandable. We play as her trying to accomplish a goal throughout the game, and her design does nothing to detract from that unless you just happen to be someone who pays way too much attention to how other people carry themselves. Women have the ability to dress and shape themselves in a nearly infinite number of ways. The same is true for men, and anyone else in whatever spectrum we see the world through. I'm proud of artists and developers for giving attention to all sorts of varieties of designs, and honestly, I'm always excited to see what new and creative looks they can come up with next. Some of them have been truly inventive, and whatever your tastes, I'm sure that there are plenty of examples for you to share in the comments. So go ahead and let us know your favorite fictional designs, and hey, maybe even some of your least favorites. We're all eyes and ears. Afterwards, check out more of my videos like this one here, where I analyze how to write inspiring female characters. The link is right in front of you. I've been Johto Johnny, and I'll catch you all there.